What is up, savages? It looks like ETH is going to hard fork to Istanbul sometime on Saturday. So let's take a look at it. What is going on, everybody? So I don't follow ETH that close. This is like full disclosure here. I know I should, but you kind of get, as a miner, you kind of get inundated with ETH information all the time, and you don't really miss anything too much because you're going to see it, through social media channels and things like that. So this was kind of fun to kind of prep for this and just kind of learn a little bit more about how this all works on Ethereum. It's kind of neat. So they have a countdown to Istanbul timer here, and looks like it's 1 day and 22 hours or about then. It's on block 906 9000. It's got the current block here and everything. I think that I read that it's kind of speeding up a little bit, so it might be a little bit sooner than this. You would have to come in here and probably keep refreshing and stuff to figure it out, but anyway, or actually no, it might be longer. That's right, it might push it out further. So anyway, it looks like it'll be sometime on Saturday, most likely. So what does all this mean? What's going to happen with Istanbul? And Istanbul is a code name that's given to this is the 8th major network upgrade or hard fork for Ethereum since it was released. It'll happen at block number 906 9000, like I was saying, and that's supposed to be on Saturday, December 7th. And Istanbul includes 6 Ethereum improvement proposals, EIPs, and EIPs describe the standards for the Ethereum platform, including like the core protocol specifications, APIs, and contract standards, and other things that are associated with the network protocol itself. But there's 6 that are included in this particular upgrade. And the overall upgrade is called EIP 1679, and that's the one that includes everything else. The only controversial, a lot of times in these forks there'll be some controversy, but the only controversial one is EIP 1884. That's had a lot of discussion about it, and it is basically talking about a mispriced gas cost for some of the tri-sized dependent Ethereum virtual machine EVM opcodes, that they are going to require some fee restructuring to offset the computing power required and the cost of gas to run the code. So the increase is intended to safeguard against future spam attacks. And these spam attacks, because if there's too low of a cost but a huge amount of computing power, then you can see how you could actually basically do like a denial of service or a spam attack on the network. And those types of attacks can stress the network and cause significant delays for valid transactions from normal non-spamming users, right? So it's just a negative impact on the network, and you don't really want that. So that's what the EIP 1884 is all about, is fixing that problem that they've recognized. So what does Istanbul actually bring to Ethereum? But first, let's start with what it doesn't cover. So there's not going to be an Ice Age difficulty bomb addressed in this particular upgrade. That's supposed to possibly come later. In 4 to 5 weeks, the Mirror Glacier fork is supposed to happen, and that is supposed to address that. But all this is just proposals. It's all EIPs, so it just depends on how things get worked through all the organizations that are involved. But just keep in mind that for this particular hard fork on Saturday, the difficulty bomb is not addressed in this fork. So until then, the difficulty of the Ethereum blockchain is going to increase. And you can see how it's already happening here. So this is going to keep going, most likely, until they implement the fix for the difficulty bomb, the Ice Age. And the Ice Age and that difficulty bomb was supposed to be timed with the transition to proof of stake, to kind of get people over into proof of stake a little easier, I guess, because the difficulty would be too high for miners to really benefit. So it would be like a slow, transition over into proof of stake. But because of how things have worked, they haven't gone to proof of stake yet. That's 2022, 2021, maybe at the end of 2020, possibly. But it's pushed out there a ways, so they're not going to address that right now. They're going to try to fix the difficulty bomb or push it out further so that that difficulty doesn't rise enough to affect the transition to proof of stake. So until then, difficulty is going to increase a little bit. So let's talk about what Istanbul is going to do. Actually, I have this right here, I think. Yep. It's going to align the cost of opcodes, and I already talked about this, with their computational cost and improve denial of service resistance. That's one thing it's going to do. It's also going to make layer 2 solutions based on snarks and starks to have more performance. And ZK starks, we've talked about ZK snarks before, but ZK starks is zero knowledge, scalable, transparent arguments of knowledge. We talked, I gave a lot of examples of ZK snarks in a previous video, but ZK snarks is zero knowledge, succinct, non-interactive arguments of knowledge. So those are two real mouthfuls. But yeah, I think it was on, I don't remember what video it was that I was talking about it. I think it might have been just a Fireball Friday kind of thing. That's something that's going to add as well. It's also going to enable the Ethereum. I thought this was really cool. It's going to enable the Ethereum and Zcash to interoperate, allowing atomic swaps with Equihash. And I would assume that that could bleed over into other Equihash coins that run on Ethereum as well. Maybe even, I don't know how that would work, maybe not even on Ethereum, but those atomic swaps should be able to go at least between Zcash and Ethereum. So I thought that that was pretty cool. It's also going to allow contracts to be introduced that with more creative functions, including re-entry blocks and same contract multi-send. So those are just some of the things that are going to happen on Saturday. Sometime Saturday. Now what's going to happen after Istanbul? Well, you got to look at the roadmap, but basically the next fork, this is not the right one. Let's see if we can find the right roadmap here. Okay, so the next fork is going to be called Berlin, and it's primarily composed of EIPs that did not make it into Istanbul. Now, the one really super important one, especially for miners, we're miners typically on this channel, is ProgPow. So ProgPow is EIP 1057, and that has kind of a potential to get into Berlin. You can see it right here, a EIP 1057, ProgPow, a programmatic proof of work. There is a pending audit above and beyond standard security considerations that should be evaluated prior to inclusion. So, I mean, they're looking at it still. This has been going on for quite some time now. But just know that it's possible that ProgPow could be implemented into Berlin, which is the next hard fork. Not on Saturday. This is the next hard fork. Saturday is Istanbul. This is Berlin, which is down the road. So as far as Istanbul goes, let's close Berlin so we don't get confused here. But as far as Istanbul goes, what do Ethereum users and miners really need to do? Well, there's really nothing you need to do if you just hold Ethereum, or if you're mining Ethereum, you're good. just keep on mining, keep on holding. Don't worry about too much. If you run a node, though, you need to upgrade your software to a version that supports this fork, and that is pretty much it. This is as far as mining and holding Ethereum, this is a non-issue fork as far as the devs are concerned, and probably as far as all of us should be concerned on this channel. So it looks like it's just going to be hopefully smooth, nothing tragic happens, and if you're mining Ethereum, you should still be mining Ethereum come Sunday. So that's just the way it's going to work. Now, where do we go from here, though? What's going to be further down the road is Serenity, and I kind of brought this up a few minutes ago, but it's essentially, this is their roadmap to proof of stake. And if you look down through here, you know, it gives a pretty good you know, description and a lot of text about the different upgrades and how we're going to get to proof of stake on Ethereum. So it says phase 0, that's 2019. That's probably, I guess that's happening now. Phase 1 is shard chains, which is going to be 2020. And I think that is the one. Let's see here. One of these, yeah, right here. Okay, so phase 2. In phase 2, the functionality of Ethereum 2.0 comes together, which you can kind of look at Ethereum 2.0 as the proof of stake. At least that's the way I understand it. So it says here 2020 or 2021. So, you know, you can always assume that it's probably going to be pushed out. You know, I would say 2021, but don't hold me to it. You know, we've been hearing about ProgPow and for more than a year. So, you know, I think that it'll probably be pushed out, but that's just me. And so that's going to bring a lot of upgrades, a lot of different technologies implemented and everything, and you know, basically nobody's going to be mining Ethereum after that, because it'll all be proof of stake. So let me check the chat. I haven't even looked over here to see what's going on. What's up, Nefarious? What's up, Turbo Junkie? Yeah, Oracle, Kingpin. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know how the fork is going to affect the value. I don't really talk too much about value on here. But you never know. I mean, I'd be okay with it. What's up, Turbo Junkie? You know, it's always that opportunity to scoop some up, right? But yeah, I remember it got down into the 70s, I believe, last year, right? And that would have been, you know, like down in this area, right? Somewhere around in here. November. I mean, I know I'm looking at difficulty. This isn't price, but I was just looking at the difficulty to see what was going on then. It looks like they might have forked then too. I don't remember that particular one. I think it's on the roadmaps and all that stuff, but I thought I had a really good roadmap up here that showed a lot of different. It might be under, can't remember where it's at now. It wasn't all the way down here. Yeah, there's just so many developers. It's such a huge community. I'm surprised they get anything done. There's just so many of them, you know, and they have to agree on things, and it just takes time, you know. That's why I think that it'll probably push the date out even further. Yeah, they said, Red Panda, they said 4 or 5 weeks from today, or from this fork, that they'll be dealing with the difficulty bomb. Yeah, here we go. So, oh, nothing happened in 2018. That's right. They didn't fork at all in 2018. So they went a whole year without a fork. Yeah, the difficulty bomb fix, should probably drop the difficulty, I would assume. So it might make mining a little bit more profitable. But we saw weird things with Monero. Whenever it forked, Red Panda actually had a video on that. It was a large difficulty increase, but that's kind of expected because you're switching from GPUs to CPUs. On an algorithm that heavily favors CPUs, so it kind of makes sense that the difficulty kind of went up, but not kind of, it went up a lot. So yeah, that was crazy. All those data center servers and stuff. Nuts. So, is there anything else y'all want to talk about? Because I'm done with my little spiel there. Let me ask y'all this. Have you seen any of the news, I guess you could say, about Hashrate OS being integrated into Zelcore wallet? So let me know in the chat over there if y'all have heard about this, because I've been trying to wrap my brain around it with how it's going to work and what types of capabilities and features and all that stuff it's going to have. Now, the one thing that they did say is that, and I thought was pretty cool, is it's going to allow you to have integrate directly with the wallet. So like you're going to have your mining OS in the wallet, I guess. I mean, I don't know how this is going to work, but it's some type of an interface there. I think that's pretty cool. But I've been trying to think about all the different things, that it would enable, I'm looking forward to that. That's going to be neat. Am I bullish on Ethereum? Long term, yeah, very. Short term, not so much. Yeah, it's a huge, huge upgrade. Not an upgrade, but an integration that, you know, at first, whenever I heard it, I was like, how's this going to work? You know, what's the capabilities, you know, that you're going to see. Um, they've also updated their website, which is super cool. Hang on just a second. I'll be right back. I'll just leave this up here. All right, I'm kind of back here. All right, y'all are talking about hex and everything. Yeah, I don't know, man. I just don't know. You know, here's what I think. See, I've been watching Richard for a while, and a lot of the things he says, I've said this before on the stream, I do agree with some of the things that he says, especially about like the crypto community. You know, there's some hard truths that, you know, he actually does say. But I remember, I think it was sometime last year, it might have been earlier this year, I was watching one of his streams where he was being interviewed, and the interviewer was, I can't remember who it was. I'm going to be really vague here because I don't remember much about it. But there was one extremely telling part of the whole interview, and I wish I could find it and nail down exactly when it was. But he was being kind of challenged, right? So there was just the interviewer was, whoever it was, they were pretty smart, and they were challenging him in a really good way, a constructive way. But because of that, the way that they were talking, Richard, I think he felt a little I think he felt threatened a little bit in a way. So in order to recuperate, he says, yeah, but I'm going to make a whole lot of money when talking about Hex, right? So before that, he was talking about how everybody else was going to make money and how it's this perfect project and it's this perfect everything. But it's almost like he let that slip in order to kind of like shove it in the interviewer's face, right? That's the feeling that I got. All the other stuff, all the mathematics, all the fundamentals and all that stuff that he talks about, I could care less about that. I mean, if the math works out, then the math works out and it's fine, right? Staking for this long, whatever. I get all that. There's two things about the whole project that I don't like. One is the adoption amplifier lobby. That's where you send ETH. I talked about this the other day. That's where you send ETH, and you know there's like the way he describes it is there's an ETH bucket and a Hex bucket, and you send ETH to the ETH bucket, and whatever percentage of ETH you have at the end of the day compared to everybody else's ETH that's in that bucket, that's the percentage of Hex you get for that day. And the amount of Hex started at 1 billion on the first day, and then it decreases, I think it's like 500 million the next day, and then it slowly decreases after that over time to zero, basically over, I think, a year, 354 days or whatever, 352 days, however that works. So that's the part, that's the adoption amplifier, he calls it. I mean, all you're doing is giving him ETH. I mean, there's really no other way to put it. That's what you're doing. Now, he says that he can't tell you where that goes, and I think that he tries to answer it in like his Telegram group. I think he's got it set up like a canned response kind of thing if you ask that question. There's all kinds of other things that, you know, he tries to explain it, but he'll say that he can't tell you what that ETH is for or where it's going, because if he did, it would make it into a security and it would be against the law, right? It would be illegal or against regulations or whatever, right? So, okay, that's super convenient, right? Very convenient that you send the ETH to the, now you don't have, here's the thing though, you don't have to send the ETH. That's just an adoption amplifier. But if you don't do that, you would have to have a whole lot of Bitcoin in order to match that amount of Hex to claim, right? So you can free claim your Bitcoin, and all you're doing is it's basically an airdrop. He won't call it an airdrop because that makes it kind of fishy, right? So you can free claim your hex with your Bitcoin. You know, there's a website for doing it and all that. But you would have to have a lot to match what you would get if you put in ETH, right? If you send them an ETH or send, it's called the, what's that called? I mean, it's Adoption Amplifier Lobby, the lobby, and it's just an ETH address. You can see it, and like I think Red Panda was talking about it. There's no, this is not Fireball Thursday, Jason. Yeah, there's like, I think there was 3.3 million in the first day or something like that, within the first day, sent to that lobby, right? Now, all right, you know, he's got a lot of followers on Telegram. He's got a lot of followers, quite a bit on YouTube and Twitter and all that. I think there were 21,000 ETH sent. I don't know how many now because it dropped off drastically. If I was looking at what he was showing today or what he was talking about today in the interview with Peter McCormick, I think there was something even after. Oh, he just kept talking. That's right. Peter McCormick got mad and disconnected, and Richard just kept talking. So that's one thing, is the adoption amplifier. Then the other thing is I think it calls it the origin address. The origin address is for hex, and that origin address gets, I'm probably going to mess up the numbers, but I think that it gets about 50% of everything, all of the circulating supply. It's in the math that it will work out to where that address will always have more than 50% of the total circulating supply, right? Through the math of the contract, of the smart contract. So who owns that address? I mean, you can only assume that he owns the ETH address and the origin address. That's just an assumption. I don't know for sure, and he won't say it. So those are the two parts of the whole thing that I don't like. All the math, pumpamentals, and all that stuff. Okay, fine, whatever. You know, if you want to buy 10,000 hex or whatever, or 100,000 hex, go for it. You know, this is not financial advice. I'm not telling you to go do it. I'm just saying that part of it. There's some other things kind of sort of weird, like if you do stake, if you free claim and you stake, then you are responsible for running. There's like something that you have to run on the network. Good accounting, I think, is what it's called, and it costs a little bit of Ethereum, if I'm not mistaken, or it might be a little bit of hex. I don't know, one or the other. And that I think that fixes your, I'm going to mess it up. I'm not going to say that. I'm not going to say anything else about that. But I think that at the end of your stake, you have to re-stake if you want to, or cash out or whatever, at the end of your stake, or risk losing it over time. So like if you, let's say you had 10,000 hex or 100,000 or a million hex that you were staking, and then your stake period ended, you would have to know and remember when that period ends. Now there might be apps that they create after the fact that will alert you. I don't know how it's all going to work. I have no idea. But I do know that if you don't restake on your own, that over time that amount is going to be ate away, right? Like percentages a day, I think, just get taken off of it, and it's put back into the pool or whatever for the stakers, the people that are still staking. I don't know that much about it. I've been watching it because it was kind of interesting a while back, but I'm telling you, that one interview, up until that interview, I was like, oh, this is pretty cool. You know, all the things that he was saying kind of made sense, you know, and like I said, I agree with a lot of stuff that he says. But that one interview in last year, 2018, sometime, I think it was at the end of 2018, it might have been at the beginning of this year. It was like it was just a moment, just one little moment that he let it slip, you know. I don't know. And then you guys are talking about even other times where earlier on he was talking about it being a scam and stuff too. And I guess if this is like his third or fourth crypto project, I don't know. There's been some other things. His dev, if you saw the Naomi Brockwell interview, check that out on her channel, because she had one of his old devs that was working on Hex on there. There was a lot of things that he said. You should watch it. It's not that long. It's only an hour. But Richard came on at the end and tried to, you know, refute the things that were said. It wasn't even refuting. He was agreeing with the dev, with what he said. But then he was defending the project, you know, overall and stuff. And kind of came off, he kind of was pretty rude to Naomi, kind of insulted her a little bit, you know, which is not cool, because Naomi is like super cool, you know. So anyway, I don't know. I'm just kind of rambling, but yeah, there's some speculation that he's not quite as wealthy as he claims and stuff too, though. You know, there's people that say that he longed. I hate doing that. What I just did, I hate doing it. I said there's people that say, I don't know for sure, but there's people that have said that he longed Bitcoin at, you know, 20K or whatever. He says he called the top and told everybody about it, but then he longed it and supposedly lost a bunch of money. I don't know. There's no telling. I don't know. But all I can say is, you know, last night that I did the Don't Get Scammed video? I think it was last night. Yeah. So just last night I did this video here, you know, don't get scammed, talking about different scams and stuff. I'm not going to call Hex a scam at this point, although those two things do concern me greatly. The adoption amplifier, the huge bonus you get for sending ETH, and that origin address that mathematically will never have less than 50% of the total circulating supply or something like that. Those are the two things. Everything else, whatever, you know. That's just the way I feel about it. I don't know. Let me know how y'all feel in the comments. Keep it going in the conversation in the comments below so that we can figure this whole Hex thing out. So, yeah, I mean, it's interesting, but I don't know. He was after the McCormick interview, he was talking about, I think it, on some exchange, it did a 15, can't remember how many X. It was a lot though. But I mean, I don't know how liquid that's going to be, you know, if somebody's going to buy it. I don't know. But is there a red panda coin? Is that what you're saying? All right, so it is 10:11. That's about 45 minutes, I think, right? So long story short, on the ETH fork on Saturday, not much we have to do on the mining side or the holding side. Your ETH is safe as far as I'm concerned. You know, like I said, if you're mining, keep mining, but it's not profitable right now. I mean, nothing is really. So let's go and look at what to mine real quick. So we'll look at RX 580s. That's what I have here in the rigs. Yeah, losing a little bit every day after power. So it looks like you have to be probably down in the 8-cent range, maybe, before you're profitable. Okay, so maybe 9. Maybe 10. And this is with the RX 580. This is not new hardware or anything. Yeah, so right around the 9 cent per kilowatt hour is where you have to be in order to be profitable with an RX 580. Let's go with a Vega 56. They're real power hungry, so you're probably going to need more than that. Yeah, so like you're going to have to be all the way down in the probably 7-cent range maybe. Yeah, right around 7 cents before you're somewhat profitable, and you'd be mining BCI and Grin, breaking even on Kuka 231 on NiceHash, and just a slight profit on ETC and ETH. Vegas or 7, Radeon 7. Okay, so Radeon 7 looks like you might be able to be at around 9 cents maybe. Oh. Let's go to 11. Okay, so an 11, or I'm sorry, Radeon 7, it looks like maybe up to 14 cents. Yep, probably around 14 cents is your cutoff for profitability. And again, guys, I mean, I know I'm just kind of covering this, but this only matters if you're like trading it in right now, right? So, you know, keep that in mind whenever you're looking at profitability calculations and stuff. What I like to look at is difficulty and how many of that coin I'm getting per day and what I think it's going to be in the future, right? That's what's important to me. If I'm already paying electric out of pocket, a lot of home hobby miners are, then, you know, that's what you should be concerned with. How many am I getting per day, right? And what's the difficulty at? So, let's go on to some NVIDIA stuff here. So 27, you can probably go up to, or 2070. Is that what I'm on? Yeah, 2070. Probably go up to about 14 cents per kilowatt hour before you're not profitable. Yeah, so 14 or 15 cents. So at 2070, you know, right now that's probably like on the NVIDIA side, on the green team, that's probably about the best, you know, high-end GPU for mining. If you want to get super value, you're looking at 1660s and 1660 Super and TI. You know, real low power draw and pretty good hash rates from them. You know, I would not recommend building a rig right this second unless you can get your GPU super cheap. Because, you know, as you can see, these numbers are not attractive. But it's the people that deal with this and get through it. We've been doing this for 2 years. I mean, this been pretty bad for almost 2 years now. At least at the beginning of last year, it was kind of declining, you know, kind of slowly. But by the summer, it was real bad. You know, I mean, even in the summer, I think I was mining Ethereum Classic in the summer, and I want to say that each one of these rigs right here, Mustafar and Dagobah, they were getting, I want to say it was somewhere between $8 and $12 a day. And that was into probably the end of the summer, but then after that, it was over, man. This is what we've been dealing with for a long time. So, you know, things are hopefully going to turn around. Like I've said a bunch of times, I mean, you know, it's just get through it. Just keep doing your thing. You know, if you have to pay out of pocket, you know, again, you know, I'll say it again. If it's offset enough to where you could just buy the crypto instead of mine it, and it's worth it from a financial standpoint, like your time, how long it would take for you to get onto an exchange and you know, get fiat onboarded to BTC if you had to, and then get that BTC over to an exchange, and then buy the crypto that you're wanting to mine, you know, and then get it back to a wallet that you control and all that stuff. If that time, like if you're only losing 10 cents a day or 20 cents a day on a rig, maybe it's worth that 20 cents, right? For you to not worry about that part of it and just keep on mining it. But if you're losing $5 a day or $4 a day, I would probably look at just buying the crypto. Turn the rig off, buy the crypto, save that $4, wait until you know, things settle out or things make more sense, just keep an eye on it. Difficulty, keep an eye on everything, and just mine only whenever it's profitable, or you know, only whenever it makes sense. Yeah, don't tell me, Red Panda. That's going to be ugly. Yeah, yeah, exactly, Nefarious. Yeah. Yeah, like the little bit, if you aren't paying out of pocket and you aren't taking that approach, like Nefarious is saying, then what are you doing? Then all you're doing is you're mining and then dumping it on the market and selling it because you got to pay your bills for the electricity that you spent to mine the coins. It's the same thing scaled up to Bitcoin. It's the same exact thing. That's all that happens. There's like the Bitcoin miners, that's all they do. Now there was some articles and some things that came out earlier in the year, I think this year, yeah, where apparently because of the run up, those big jumps that we had in Bitcoin, there was some mining operations, some of the huge mining farms, Bitcoin mining farms, that were able to basically accumulate enough and sell enough to operate for the rest of the year, and then that way they wouldn't dump it on the market. But do you believe them? I don't know. You know, it's just, you know, it's real ugly, the whole the Bitcoin mining scenario. This is one thing that, speaking of Richard Hart, this is one thing that I agree with him on whenever he talks about the Bitcoin mining and the operation and how it works. And another really good example is on the whole centralization thing that he gives, and it makes perfect sense, and it does. You know, people like to correlate hash rate with security, right? But what he'll say is, if he bought enough miners to 10x the hash rate, is it more secure? The answer is no, because now the hash rate is even more centralized than it is right now, right? Which is not the way that things. I often think this. I think about this all the time. I'm like, why couldn't? I mean, it'll never happen. It's never going to happen. But why couldn't we fork Bitcoin off of ASICs? We do it with everything else. Why couldn't we do it? I don't know. Is it because of all the pressure from the mining farms? Probably. They own it. They own Bitcoin. They have all the hash rate. They have it all. There's little farms in the United States, small ones. You know, I think that there might be one big one. I know that they were. I think Bitmain was building one in Texas or something, if I remember right. But just think about that. Think about what would happen if, and I might be just way off out in left field on this, but if we could somehow fork Bitcoin off of ASICs. I don't know. It makes sense to me because it wasn't supposed to be like this. It really wasn't. If you read the white paper, it says right there, it was not supposed to be like this at all. Bitcoin was supposed to be a peer-to-peer cash, a peer-to-peer electronic cash system. That's not what it is. It has completely failed at that. Completely failed. It's not that anymore, which is fine if it's taken on its new purpose of being a store of value. But the problem is that all of it is stored in one spot, one main spot in hash rate, right? And all they do is mine, dump, mine, dump. And how does that affect the price? I mean, I don't know. It's really frustrating, you know. And actually, I was actually talking to somebody about this too, because I was saying, well, won't the one thing that is sometimes overlooked about crypto mining is that cheap electricity. Like if the argument is that you're polluting the environment with mining, right? The electric cost and all that stuff. Okay, so if the argument is that, then you can also, the other side of that is, yeah, but it's also a driver for green energy and cheap electricity. But then they said something really that made a lot of sense. They said that it basically is going to cancel out, and listen to this because it makes a lot of sense. Because what's going to happen if you do find, let's say you were a mining farm, and you're going to move your operation because of cheap electricity or free electricity, whatever the case is. Okay, so you can move your farm, or you can open up another farm in another location in another country that is free or super cheap electric. What are you going to do? You're going to add as many miners as you possibly can to still make a profit, right? So it basically just evens out. It levels out, and it's like a net zero gain, right? Because if the goal is to not consume enough electricity, or to find cheap electricity so that your hash rate that you're paying per hash rate is lower, then you're just going to make more profit to mine more coins and get more rewards. You're just going to keep adding miners until it levels out, which makes perfect sense. So, in that aspect, they're right, and I didn't think that far into it, but it makes perfect sense. So you can argue both sides, but if you do hear someone arguing about, yeah, but it drives green energy, okay, maybe it does, but on a large scale, it's just going to even out, because the people that are doing those large farms are just going to add more miners, right? Now, obviously, there's some supply issues you have to think about and all that stuff. I get that. But anyway, I'm just completely rambling. I'm not even looking at the chat or anything. I'm not drinking Fireball, man. Well, Red Panda, the last couple of pumps that we've had, like the big one from 3 to 14, that was all plus token. I think it was billions of dollars of Bitcoin was purchased during that time. There was a huge amount. Then before that, or after that was, what do we have? We had plus token. I'm gonna forget now what this last little pump was. Actually, we've gone down since the 14K. Oh, and BitConnect was before that, obviously, 2017. But there was one other kind of huge thing that happened. That was a scam, but I just don't remember what it is. Anyway, so yeah, there's right now. I think that the whales definitely make a difference. They move stuff around and they do sell and buy back, and they set up. There's all kinds of manipulation going on. There's all kinds, but here's the argument for that though. There's manipulation in every market. Every market there's manipulation. It just depends on how severe it is, right? And it just so happens that Coin One, that's what it was. So it just so happens in the crypto space, if you've ever seen those charts of the size, the economic mass of each sector, like real estate, gold, all that stuff. I mean, Bitcoin is like, the whole crypto market is like really small, right? So because it has such a small economic mass, it's easy to move it, and there's some speculation and there's some research that have shown that, as far we look at the market cap, right? We look at the market cap and we go, okay, so there's supposedly $200 billion in the market, right? If you look at this right away, if you just glance at this, then you're thinking that's a lot of money, man. $201 billion. But here's the thing. The way that market cap is calculated, it's circulating supply versus the price, right? So now think about this. If you are a long-term Bitcoin holder and you have 100, I don't want to say 100, let's just say 100,000 Bitcoin, right? You mined it way back in the day, or you accumulated 100,000. But you accumulated 100,000 whenever it was a penny, right? That 100,000 is in this circulating supply over here, but it didn't really cost you anything. But the current value is this. So you got to multiply the circulating supply with the current price. But not everybody bought at 74.60, right? But that's what the market cap is calculated as, right? So if we took this times this, we would get this. I think that's the way it works, right? But this isn't the amount of money that's in there. If everybody went and cashed out, like, cashed out their Bitcoin to fiat, you would that's like a run on Bitcoin, right? Like they used to run on the banks, whenever everybody would go and try to take all their money out in the Depression and all that stuff. It wouldn't work. There's nowhere near that much money in the market. And there's some people that say that the whole crypto market might only be, I can't remember where I saw it. It was an article, but the whole crypto market, they were saying it might only be $500 million. The whole market. And you're looking at a market cap right now of 201 billion. But that's because of those huge increases, right? So, I mean, that's kind of scary. It's kind of scary. But what they can do, like the whales and stuff, they can set up a fake buy wall if they want to. So what they'll do is they'll put in a large order for buying it high, so that and that's whenever they want to sell, right? So they'll put in a buy wall, and then as the price creeps up, they have a sell over here, right? So the price creeps up, and before it hits that wall, or they'll just move it, whatever. But before it hits it, then they sell. So they got to look at all the amounts and all that stuff. It gets pretty complicated, but and then on the other side, if they can set up a sell wall if they want to buy and draw the price to that huge sell wall, because people are like, oh my gosh, look at this whale. There's a lot of sell orders over there. Something must be wrong. I better sell mine, right? So then it creeps over here towards the sell wall. I don't know if this is the right side of the screen or not, but the closer it gets, then they buy, right? And that's how they manipulate the market. That's one way. There's all kinds of other ways, but that's one way. Looks like we have a little bit of a pump going on here. Yeah, it's funny. Like any other stock, like a traditional market or anything, like 2% is like pretty huge for one day. That's like nothing in crypto. Like that's like an hour in crypto right there. All right, so I have been going for an hour. Hey, what's up, the Deadwood? I'm just leaving, man. I'm just leaving. But thanks for tuning in. I got to get out of here. I got to go to work in the morning, so got a real job and all that. So, yeah, I hope this was good, man. I hope this was pretty informative. Or at least entertaining, at least. We talked a lot about Ethereum and the fork coming up and all that on Saturday. So if you did find this video helpful or at least entertaining, be sure to subscribe and like and share and comment and all that stuff. Let's go ahead and keep the conversation going in the comments below. Tell me what you think about Ethereum and the hard forks coming up and Richard Hart and all that stuff. I think we're going to see Richard Hart on a lot of different interviews, over the next couple months. Probably, I would assume that he's going to probably he's going to have to do something. He's going to have to get out there and get his face out there, I think. So I don't know if that's going to end up being good or bad, but we will see. Yeah, follow me. Also follow me on Twitter, because over here on Twitter I try to keep you guys up to date with what's going on the channel, and you know, and I tweet about crypto stuff over there as well. And then tomorrow is going to be Fireball Friday. And if you're kind of new here, I say I've got a little bit more viewers than I normally have. So if you are new here, then on Fridays what we do is at 9:30 we start Crypto Fireball Friday. I'll be drinking Fireball and sweet tea, and then we'll just hang out and talk crypto, kind of like we did tonight after the whole planned topics and stuff, after I got through with that. So I don't really know. I've got some things that I want to talk about that I'll talk about tomorrow that are pretty cool, I think. And yeah, I'll put something together, just some topics that we can cover. Yeah, thanks Red Panda, and thanks everybody for hanging out. Yeah, I really appreciate it. So I will see you tomorrow night, most likely. Everybody stay savage for me. Wrong button. There it is.